want you to know something. Success leaves clues. Nobody got there on their own. Nobody invented the wheel. Success leaves clues. And there are successful people in this room who have clues to teach to you. We've got some incredible speakers lined up, and I want to tell you this. There are 5 of us that meet every other Tuesday to plan these events to make sure that what we're doing for you is opening doors and providing resources to help you raise your expectations and challenge the benchmarks that you or someone else set for you. I want to see you become way more than you ever thought possible. I want to see you expect better things out of your life than you ever thought were possible for you. I want to see you realize this weekend that you are far more capable and far more powerful than you've ever given yourself credit for. We have lined up some incredible speakers who are going to give you some powerful, inspirational, motivational, and success-oriented messages that you have the choice to take home with you. You're going to hear from my good friend Dr. Ray, who has a phenomenal, huge practice up in New York. And you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to him, and you make the choice what you do with that knowledge. You're going to hear from my good friend Billy D, who a one-man show with a huge team behind him, but really a one-man vision, is putting together the biggest program in chiropractic. And you get to choose what you do with that information. Now, you can let that information sink in. You could put it in the back of your brain, or you can choose to do something with it. So I want to show you how you get to make a choice. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up because I want to get your energy where you need to be for this weekend. So I want you to follow along with me. We're going to clap slow. You ready? Now you get the choice. You get to follow along or you get to make your own decision. Now you could stay slow or you could start going. The faster you go, the more energy. Nice job. Now you have that choice every day. There are people out there willing to show you the pathway, and you can choose to sit back there and say, but woe is me, but my mommy said this, or my daddy said this, or my 3rd grade boyfriend broke up with me. Give me a break, right? You get the choice to say, I'm not there anymore. I'm a grown-up. I'm responsible for myself. I take responsibility for my own thoughts, my own words, my own actions, my habits, and who I am. You make that decision every morning when you open your eyes. You unconsciously make that decision every day with every decision that you make that you don't even realize you're making. You make those decisions all day long. Do you want to continue with what you've been doing all your life? Or do you want to start to live at a higher level? Some of you right now may be struggling. Some of you right now may be stumbling. Some of you right now may not be at the level that you want to be. But if you choose to stay there, understand it's a choice. You know, life ain't always easy. I understand that. We have our ups and downs. You have your ups and downs. The speakers you're going to hear from this weekend, they've had their ups and downs, but they're human. They walked where you walk. They stumbled where you're stumbling. They overcame obstacles that you're now looking at as insurmountable. And if they could do it, you could do it. But you have to get your mind there. Because some of you have sight, but not vision. You see with your eyes and you think that what you can see is all you can be. You know, there was a time when Life University lost its accreditation and our enrollment went down and finances went down and money was tight. I mean, that's an understatement. Can we just all say that? I mean, there was a point where they were like rationing toilet paper, okay? Money was tight. And the outside profession kept looking at Life University, and with their eyes, they saw that life was faltering, and they believed that life would fail. And the profession started to realize that life might go down. And what would happen to this profession if it did? And the board, instead of seeing with their eyes and looking at the fault and the failure and the problems and bringing on someone who could fix the problems and work the old plan, they made a decision to go with a visionary, to find someone whose vision was bigger than the trouble and the problems that life faced. You know, Dr. Riekman came in here when this school was in a financial crisis, and he laid out a 2020 plan that included a livable campus. You know, most people would have thought he was crazy. And a lot of people in the profession did think he was crazy. But look where we are now. Because he didn't see with his eyes. He saw in his mind. You need to close your eyes and see more than you've ever seen. Because if all you see is what's in front of you, you will continue to live that life, good or bad. And I promise you, no matter how good you think it is, it can be better. No matter how good you think your practice is, it can get better. No matter how big you think your impact on your community is, you can do more. And if you feel like where you are right now is not enough, if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're stumbling, I urge you to reach out amongst this room and find people who will hand out their hand very simply to you, because they've struggled too. We all have. Am I right? We've all struggled. We've all stumbled. We've all failed. But you know what the difference is? We've gotten up. And when you get up, when you get back up, when you make the decision to make the next day be the best day and make the next day be the best day and keep making that decision every day, you create habits for yourself. You change your thoughts, you change your words, you change your actions, you change your mindset. You become such a more powerful, dynamic, loving being. The world will be attracted to you. Be so good that they can't not stare. Be so good that they can't ignore you. Be so good that they have to pay attention. When you're in your community, be on fire for chiropractic. They say when you're on fire, people come to watch you burn. Be on fire for chiropractic. And when you have those great stories in your office, like we all do, take the time to share them. I want to tell you about Gail. Gail came into our office, and it was a really interesting thing because she just showed up at the door, and we didn't think anything of it. She was just a walk-in. She showed up about 6:30 one night, and she said, you know, I'm new to the area, and I saw the office, and I decided to come in. Okay, so we're doing the exam on Gail, and Gail is morbidly obese. She weighs about 450 pounds, and both of her hands are burning her so bad every day on the way home that she has to drive with one hand on the sunroof and then switch. It's the only way she can manage the drive from Atlanta back up to Woodstock. And so we do an exam on her. We take some x-rays. We see some subluxations in her spine. We see a loss of curvature. And we start adjusting her. And over time, we get to know her. Okay, this woman has like a 45 millimeter anterior head translation. I mean, really bad shape. But as we get to know her, she starts to say things like, well, I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight. I want to do more things. So I'm not going into a nutrition and an exercise talk with her, but I say, well, Gail, why don't you just try going for a walk? And you know what went through her mind? Well, that would mean I'd have to go home, and then I'd have to climb up the stairs, and then I'd have to go through my clothes, and I'd have to find something that I could wear that was comfortable to work out in. And I'd probably change 3 times just to find something that, you know, actually fit and looked good. And then I'd have to find socks, and I'd have to find sneakers, and I'd have to sit down and actually put the socks and sneakers on. And then I'd have to go back down the stairs, and I'd have to get a drink of water, and then I'd have to grab my keys and grab my phone so I can go outside for a walk. And that just sounds like torture. Too much work, too hard. And besides, if I did that, let me rationalize here. If I did that, I might lose weight, and then I'd have to buy more clothes, and I just don't have the money for clothes. So you know what? I'll just go eat. You do that. You do that same thing when somebody says to you, make a little change in your office. You do that same thing when you hear a speaker and something inside you says, make a little shift in my life. You find ways to rationalize why not to do something because it's too hard. You break down all the steps, but then things that are comfortable to you, you'll do, because we like to stay within our comfort zone. But I challenge you to open your eyes, open your ears, open your minds this weekend, and step out of your comfort zone, because there's so much for you to learn. There is so much room for each one of us to grow, and there's so much more that you could be doing to really make a greater impact on the people that you meet. So with Gail, as she was under care with us for quite some time, we get to the point at her reevaluation, we take a new set of x-rays. She went from a 45 millimeter anterior head translation, multiple subluxations, degeneration all throughout her spine, to a normal cervical curve. And at this point is when Gail tells us, when she came in that very first night, she was fairly new to town. She had moved here with her elderly mother. Gail was about 45, 50 years old, and her mother was in her mid-70s. And her mother also was morbidly obese. And she just had this existence where she would drive to work and drive home, and she was miserable because her hands were burning her all the time. She couldn't eat any food because she had horrendous indigestion, so she just ate the same garbage every single day because that's all she was capable of digesting. Well, she goes through this story and she explains to us that she was seriously contemplating suicide, but she didn't know who else would take care of her mother. So as a last-ditch effort, she just whipped the car around, pulled into our office that night, and figured, let me give chiropractic a try. I've never been to one, have no idea what they do, but I've been to every other professional, nothing seems to be helping me. So Gail tells us this story, and we realize that it's so much more than we ever realized. And that's the case with every patient you see in your office. It doesn't matter why they came in. It doesn't matter what their chief complaint is. It doesn't matter what it is in their life that they wish they can continue doing again. They're never going to fully be able to explain to you how much your adjustment means to them. Because when the woman no longer goes home aching and in pain and cranky and moody, or like in Gail's case, now she could actually eat foods and have some energy to actually do something, right? When people change how they feel because they're no longer suffering, it changes the world around them. Imagine how that changes the relationship with their families. Imagine how that changes their relationship with their children. Imagine how that changes the relationship with their coworkers. And that's what we as chiropractors have to be able to tap into, is not just how you doing today, because we don't ask that in our office, but how are you getting better? How is your life changing? How is this benefiting you? How is your life improving? How is the world around you getting better? Start elevating your practice members. Start elevating your community. Start elevating the people that you're around, because as you elevate them, it will elevate you even more. You rise, you raise them up. The more they raise up, the more you rise. You know, they say a rising tide lifts all boats. You're not an island. You've got to remember that. When you're out there, your job is to bring up those around you. We do it through the chiropractic adjustment. We do it by restoring the connection between man the physical and man the spiritual. We do that by eliminating the interference between the brain and the body cell. We do that with our hands. And you have no idea how far-reaching your adjustment can be. So adjust it and leave it alone. And allow that person to experience all that life was meant to show them. But you have to also be that person, because when you start to be a better person, when you start to be a better provider, you start to make people resonate at a higher level. Sharon said to you earlier about showing up. Showing up is the hardest step. With Gail, putting on her shoes was the hardest step. But if she just put on her shoes and she walked out the door to the end of her driveway, she would have realized how easy that was. And if you just put on your shoes and walk to the end of the driveway and you realize it's so easy that you walk to the end of the block, or you walk around the block, you will realize how easy it is to change who you are when you're ready to make a decision that this is not who I'm meant to be, this is who I am right now because of the decisions I made in the past. And I have a choice to show up better. And when you talk about showing up, don't just show up in your life. Show up here. Show up in the profession. Show up in your state associations and show up in your state organization, because I promise you, when you show up, you change the conversation. There are many meetings that I show up in, many meetings that my husband and I show up in. They aren't always pleasant, but our presence is necessary. And some of you know what I'm talking about. You've been on boards, you've been on state associations, you've been in meeting rooms where it's not always pleasant. You've given a talk in your community where it's not always well received before you start. But when you show up, your very presence alone will change the conversation. And that's how we start shifting things, by showing up bigger and better every opportunity that we get. I was raised in a household where we talked about doing it perfect. Do it perfect. That was our motto. Do it perfect. And that's how we lived our lives. We excelled at everything we did. My mom said you can get an F in every subject as long as you get an A in effort. And you know what happened when we got an A in effort? We got an A in every subject. And for some people, that mindset, do it perfect, works. But for some of you, as my good friend Dr. Eric Plasker says, perfection paralyzes. And so instead of doing it, you stop and you wait. And you wait, and you wait, and you wait. And you think that someday the time is going to be right to do it, but the time will never be right to do anything if you're not right. So sometimes done is better than perfect. But it doesn't mean do it halfway. It doesn't mean do a slop job, and it doesn't mean that good enough is, because let me tell you something, good enough isn't. Look at your practice, look at your life, look at the impact that you're having on your community, and in your mind, I want you to just say right now, good enough isn't. Say it out loud. Good enough isn't. Do you even mean that? Good enough isn't. Let me hear it. Good enough isn't. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to be phenomenal or you're going to be forgotten. So when you go back on Monday morning, good enough isn't. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it doesn't have to sit and wait and wait and wait. Start making the changes. Take what you learned this weekend and start involving them into your life. Start making them part of who you are. Start making it part of how you think, how you speak, how you act, how you carry yourself, and how you influence the people around you. And when you start to do that, you'll start to resonate at a higher level. And as you resonate at a higher level, your team will resonate at a higher level. And as your team resonates at a higher level, your practice will start to resonate at a higher level. And those people, as they resonate more, they become attractive to the people around them. And they'll start asking what they're doing, how they're changing, where this is coming from, and they'll have nothing else to say, but I'm now connected, brain and body, in full communication because of my chiropractor. And if you can start resonating at that level, where you're starting to really impact the people in your community, we're going to see your practices grow. We're going to see the profession to continue to grow. And we're going to see a lot more healthier people in this country than we have right now. Just like Gail, you know? There's 1 million Gails in this world. There's probably 20 or 30 of them in your town, if not more. And how many of them are just waiting to find the answer? How many of them will never have the guts to walk into your office? How many Gails will never show up at your door? How many Gails are going to drive by your office and never stop? And how many are you going to reach out and save? You make that decision. You make that decision with every thought, every word, and every action you make every day. I challenge you to be more than you can see for yourself by creating a bigger vision of who you really should be. Thank you so much.